Hello and welcome back to another episode of Video Game Easter Eggs, the series where we take a look at some of the latest and not so latest Easter eggs in video games, with the only rule being they cannot have been featured on my channel before. In today's episode, we find a creepy room in Rainbow Six Siege, we discover a familiar item of clothing in Back 4 Blood, and we make a discovery that is out of this world in Hunt Showdown. As always, if you think you know of an Easter egg that I'm yet to cover, then the best places to let me know are in the comments section or on my social media accounts, the links to which are in the description. Oh, and the best way to support this channel is by leaving a like. Not only does it apparently boost the video in the ever confusing YouTube algorithm, but it also never fails to make me smile. Anyway, without further delay, let's get started. So let's begin with the Eggcellent Splitgate. Now, after complaining about the servers in my last Easter egg video, I am very happy to report that queue times, in my experience anyway, are now basically non-existent, which is of course excellent news. Now, up until this point, we've discovered a Terminator reference, a nod to Hannibal Lecter, and the homes of the SpongeBob gang in the multiplayer shooter. But today's Easter egg actually references a game that is obviously a big inspiration for the Splitgate devs. On the Pantheon map, you can find this. So this cube looks very similar to the companion cube from the Portal series. This does seem like it's almost meant as a tribute to Portal, which alongside Halo obviously provided a huge inspiration for the core mechanics of Splitgate. Speaking of the last episode, let's cover a few more Hunt Showdown Easter eggs that I missed from that last video. First up, just south of the shipyard, you can find this. So I'm assuming that this is supposed to be one of those monoliths that popped up all over the world in places like the US, UK and Belgium. Try as I might, I can't seem to actually find out why these monoliths appeared in the first place, with many believing it was a marketing stunt, while others believe it was the work of aliens. Next up is a nod to a movie scene that has been referenced loads in video games already. At the Pearl Plantation, you can find this. So this horse in a bed is a reference to this famous scene from The Godfather. As mentioned, this particular scene has been referenced in tons of video games, including Kingdom Come Deliverance and Goat Simulator MMO. The final Hunt Showdown Easter egg can be found wedged into the side of a cliff. So a UFO seems to have made a crash landing. As of yet, aliens haven't appeared in Hunt Showdown, but there was that monolith that we found earlier on. Up next is Rainbow Six Siege and its new containment event. During this event, you play as either a team of agents sent to neutralise the threat, or you play as the threat itself. It's a pretty cool event, even though I find myself panic firing whenever one of the monsters charges at me. Anyway, the Easter egg found on the event map is actually pretty well hidden. In the locker hallway, you can see a room that is inaccessible from the outside. Well, at the main stairs, you can find a series of tubes that seem to lead to the room. If you head to the roof and throw your drone into the tubes, you'll find that your progress is halted by two fans. Simply switch back to your operator and shoot the fans out. Now follow the pipes down until you find this. So I'm not entirely sure what the meaning of this room is. Now of course I am assuming that it does have a meaning, otherwise why would it be so hidden? Of course the Rainbow Six Siege spin-off game Rainbow Six Extraction is expected to feature strange creatures, perhaps like the ones seen in the room. So it may be something to do with that. Let me know what you think down below. So Going Under has been a regular over on my hidden video game detail series, but today it finally makes its debut in the Easter egg series with a reference to one of the greatest ads to ever appear on YouTube. Let's see if you can guess the reference. So this vampire, who is working out of a garage and says that knowledge is better than in-game items, is actually a reference to this now infamous YouTube ad starring Ty Lopez and his 7 new bookshelves.
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here. It's fun to drive up here in the Hollywood Hills. But you know what I like a lot more than materialistic things? Knowledge. In fact, I'm a lot more proud of these 7 new bookshelves that I had to get installed to hold 2,000 new books that I bought.
Right, let's take a look at the Back 4 Blood beta. Now, I'm so used to betas being glorified demos, releasing a couple of weeks before the actual game does, that I expected Back 4 Blood to be releasing next week. So you can imagine my disappointment when I discovered that we're going to have to wait until October to experience the full game. Now, just because I only got to spend the weekend with Back 4 Blood doesn't mean that I didn't manage to find some cool Easter eggs. In fact, there were tons of references to some of cinema's greatest horror movies. The first discoveries of note can be found on the various books scattered around the game. The first book is called How to Make Out with a Camp Counselor Whilst Watching the Lake, which is of course a reference to the Friday the 13th movies, where a young Jason Voorhees drowned as the counsellors meant to be watching the children were making out instead. The other book, titled How to Melt Gold into a Big Cross, is a reference to the 1980 horror movie The Fog, where stolen gold is melted and used to create a cross. The other books can be found at the base camp, with the first one being How to Kick Ass When You're All Out of Bubblegum, which is a nod to Duke Nukem and his famous catchphrase. Finally, the book titled How to Spin Your Head 360 Degrees While Sitting in Bed is a reference to this iconic scene from The Exorcist.
With the Father and the Holy Spirit. Damien!
The horror movie tributes aren't just found on the spines of books. On the abandoned chapter, the street names are Crystal Lake, which is where a young Jason Voorhees died in Friday the 13th, and Elm Street, which is of course a nod to the Nightmare on Elm Street films. Oh, and speaking of Nightmare on Elm Street, in one of the wardrobes on the abandoned map, you can find this. So this sweater is the same sweater that Freddy Krueger famously wears in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Now, that's all I've managed to find in the beta of Back 4 Blood, but I'm sure that when the game is finally released, there'll be tons more to find. So let's once again end an episode of this series with the Easter egg packed Zombie Army 4. Now, a common theme among the majority of the Zombie Army 4 Easter eggs are the creepy dolls that seemingly appear out of nowhere, and well, today's Easter eggs are no different. First up, during the meat locker level, you can find this. So shooting this hanging doll causes more dolls to appear, along with what appears to be a zombie. The final Easter egg in Zombie Army 4 can be seen on the rock bottom chapter. If you interact with the projector, this will happen. Now, I think I said before how these dolls aren't explained at any point in the game, yet they seem to appear everywhere, which just makes them even more creepier if you ask me. So that's it. As mentioned, if you know of any Easter eggs that I'm yet to cover, then the best places to let me know are in the comment section or on my social media accounts, the links to which are in the description. Remember, if you are a fan of Easter eggs, secrets and tiny details in games, then perhaps consider subscribing, as that's what this channel is all about. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.